today's episode of Mental Health is Horrifying. I'm your horror Barbie host of darkness, Candis Green, psychotherapist and all-around spooky bitch, podcasting from my bat-filled cave in Toronto, Canada. Are you someone who tends towards the worst-case scenario? And if so, what does that look like while you're out enjoying a lovely summer day? Now, a lovely summer day for me involves hiding like a vampire from the sun, say in a dark movie theater. But for you, maybe this means enjoying a day of swimming, perhaps at the beach. What's the worst that could happen at the beach? Well, if you're someone who catastrophizes, the worst thing that could happen at the beach is that a tornado touches down over the water, sweeping up all the sharks before it touches down on land where the sharks can attack you and everyone you hold dear. Yep. Today, we're taking a look at the mental health considerations posed by the cinematic masterpiece Sharknado. So let's just get right into it. Let's check out Sharknado and its portrayal of catastrophic thinking. Off the coast of Mexico, a ship of shark fin smugglers is murdering a bunch of sharks. It's a really awful scene, with shark bodies strewn all over the ship. The ship gets caught in a hurricane, somehow mixing with the sharks and turning into a Sharknado, which kills all aboard. Did they anger the shark gods and bring this on themselves? Who's to say? But our actions do have consequences, and that's what I am saying. The Sharknado eventually hits Los Angeles, and chaos ensues. I mean, people are being eaten by sharks left, right, and center. Sharks are launching themselves through windows, swimming up the freeway, and invading homes. Global warming and extreme weather patterns are really getting out of hand. Bar owner and professional surfer Finn sets out with his friends Baz, Nova, and George to rescue his estranged wife April and their teenage daughter Claudia after the bar and boardwalk are destroyed by the flooding. Along the way, the brave group helps whoever they can from the terrors of the Sharknado, including a group of kids stranded on a school bus. There are, sadly, injuries and casualties along the way. George is smothered by an avalanche of sharks. April's boyfriend is eaten by sharks. And school bus driver Robbie says, "My mom always told me Hollywood would kill me," before an unidentified letter from the Hollywood sign falls down and murders him. The group eventually meets up with Finn's son Matt, who is hiding out at his flight school. He has the idea to fly up in a helicopter and drop a bomb inside the Sharknadoes. 3 have formed at this point. Nova goes up in the helicopter with him, and together they destroy 2 Sharknadoes, but then a shark latches on to the helicopter and she tumbles out into the shark's mouth. Finn destroys the last Sharknado with a bomb attached to his car, and the sharks begin to plummet towards the ground. One falling shark flies directly towards the remaining members of the group. Finn jumps into its mouth with a chainsaw and cuts his way out, emerging with Nova, who is alive. This harrowing story has brought estranged couple Finn and April back together because love is real. The end. When I was rewatching this movie for this episode, it was actually raining outside, and I became convinced that what was happening in the movie was going to happen right outside my window. And this actually didn't make me feel anxious or worried at all. It made me laugh. How silly for me to think that. We'll talk a bit more later about how horror can be something you can use to diffuse catastrophic thinking. Satan bless the Sci-Fi Network, who commissioned the Sharknado franchise, among many other so terrible they're amazing H movies. When this movie came out in 2013, It was an absolute phenomenon and just kept growing and growing in popularity the longer it was out through word of mouth and chatter on Twitter about how silly and glorious this movie was. A few of sci-fi's other H-list films include Piranhaconda, Sharktopus, and Alien Tornado. Sharknado is filled with so many incredible, silly one-liners, but I think my favorite is when there's a pool of blood and someone says, "Looks like it's that time of the month." Incredible. Sharknado stars iconic Y2K actress Tara Reid from Josie and the Pussycats, Join the Navy, and American Pie, and 90s heartthrob Ian Ziering, who you might know from Beverly Hills 90210. One of my favorite tidbits from the production of this movie is that while Ian Ziering was heavily skeptical of the script for Sharknado, he ultimately decided to take the gig because he needed to earn enough to qualify for Screen Actors Guild health insurance for his family. I bet he's glad he made that decision. Sharknado has 6 films in its franchise to date. Apparently, a prequel with the 7th film is due to release in 2026. 2026 is now. Where is she? We need her. Sharknado, as with every other shark movie, is obviously influenced by Jaws. It falls into the category of a sharksploitation film, portraying sharks as these bloodthirsty monsters hell-bent on destroying humanity, which is ironic because it was notoriously after the release of Jaws that it triggered a massive surge in the hunting and killing of sharks. So many species of sharks are now endangered. It's truly awful. Sharknado is a sharksploitation movie, but low-key, it's also a home invasion movie. The sea is the shark's home. You are invading their home, and then you're surprised that they are fighting back. The monster in this movie is sharks, but really, the true monster is humans. It always is. Be nice to sharks, people. Catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion where someone imagines the worst-case scenario in any given situation, no matter how likely that outcome may be. Someone who catastrophizes may experience a situation that may be relatively mild or non-threatening, or even a little upsetting, like they're in the midst of a crisis. What may start as a small worry tends to turn into a tornado, or Sharknado of worry, spiraling more and more until that small worry feels like a Category 5 natural disaster. Examples of this could be you make a small, innocuous mistake at work, and then you catastrophize that you're going to get fired and subsequently lose your home. Or you have a minor headache and you Google your symptoms, and then you catastrophize that you have a tumor and 3 months to live. I mean, who among us hasn't Googled their symptoms and catastrophized out of control? Humans innately have a negativity bias, meaning we tend to focus more on threats or negative information. It's like when you get feedback at work or school about a project, and it's all, "Great job, you did amazing, sweetie, it was a success, except this one part wasn't great, you could really do a little bit better on that next time." And that's all you'll hear and fixate on. It can take a lot of conscious effort to recognize that there was so much positive feedback and to be proud of yourself for that, and not just zoom in on the negative thing. Recognizing that it really only made up like 2% of the feedback, and that everything is going to be fine, and that constructive feedback is totally normal. Beyond our inherent negativity bias, there are a lot of other reasons why some people tend to take it to the nth degree and catastrophize. Catastrophizing is a symptom of PTSD, where someone might view the trauma they experienced as evidence that bad things can and will always happen to them. Those who struggle with OCD can also catastrophize, as OCD obsessions can lead someone to have persistent negative thought patterns or ruminating thoughts that feel like they're out of control. It can also be common for those with anxiety or depressive disorders to catastrophize. Catastrophizing can also be a learned response to an unstable environment. Perhaps you grew up with a really unstable home environment where things were really unpredictable and even abusive. It would make sense that you now look out for danger, anticipating the worst-case scenario as a learned response to trying to anticipate danger and stay safe. For others, like Nova, the bartender in Sharknado, catastrophizing might be a response to a traumatic event. In fact, this is a demonstration of a PTSD symptom Nova is having, where trauma survivors experience elevated levels of anxiety related to things that remind them of the incident. For Nova, this is the sea and sharks. Nova is a really underrated final girl in the horror canon. We need more recognition for her. She exhibits all the classic final girl traits. She has a somewhat shadowy past. She cares about her friends, but is also a little bit withdrawn and mysterious, probably because of her shadowy past. But when it goes down, Nova is there to stand up for the people in her community, do what's right, fight the monster, and survive to tell the tale. Nova is kind of like a modern-day Quint from Jaws, except without the nails on the chalkboard or the weird, hard-to-place accent. We learn later on in the movie that her grandparents raised her, and when she was 7, her grandfather took her fishing, but the boat went down. While in the water, sharks came and took her grandfather. She floated out there for 2 days until the Coast Guard came and a shark bit her, explaining the scar on her leg. She tells us, 6 people went into the water, 1 little girl came out. Except she didn't say it like that, like Quint. But this is her version of the USS Indianapolis, where the ship went down after delivering the first nuclear weapon used in combat, and then sharks ate everyone. Nova didn't drop a nuclear bomb or anything, but this was her Indianapolis. When shark attacks begin happening on the beach near where she is working, this is before the Sharknado even hits. You can see the anxiety wheels beginning to turn in her brain. Her body language can't hide her anxiety. Her eyes are wide and her body is tense. She talks about how much she hates sharks, but gives no specific reason why. A patron at the bar asks her what the scar on her leg is from, and she dismissively says she got it shaving. Damn, that must have been some kind of Lady Bic razor. Nova heads to the beach to help with those injured by the shark attacks, and she begins catastrophizing about the worst thing that could happen. Now, I don't know if she could have possibly conceived of a Sharknado, but damn, I guess this is an example that even when something beyond the absolute worst case scenario does happen, you still have the resources and support to handle it. In fact, the extent of the Sharknado and the situations that Nova finds herself in become increasingly unfathomable as the movie goes on, but the horrors persist, and so does Nova. Later on, we'll explore more about how Nova actually accepts and faces worst-case scenarios to challenge her catastrophic thinking.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.
in challenging catastrophic thinking is acknowledging that you are engaging in catastrophic thinking. Like, okay, it's probably unlikely that sharks will start raining down from the sky and eat me and my family, but that is what my mind is doing, so there you go. It's important to acknowledge when you are experiencing catastrophic thinking because of what is called the rebound effect of thought suppression. Basically, the more you try to tell yourself not to think about something, the stronger the thought tends to persist. In Sharknado, Nova does not run away from her catastrophic thinking. She really could have to. Most other people in town headed for the hills if they weren't eaten by sharks. But not Nova. She faced her fears and she felt resourced to do that because she had her friends by her side and also a desire to avenge her grandfather's shark murder. Nova literally went directly into the Sharknado with her crush Matt to throw a bomb into the eye of the storm, into the eye of her catastrophic thinking, if you will, saying, "You know what, you tornado sharks? I will not live in fear forever. I will not let catastrophic thinking run my life." Noticing and identifying catastrophic thinking is a great place to start. You can label catastrophic thinking thoughts by framing them like, "I am having the thought that I am doomed," rather than embracing the thought like, "I am definitely doomed." You can also notice that this is a familiar narrative or story that is coming up, i.e., this is the doom and gloom story again, I'm doing that thing. After identifying the catastrophic thought, it may help to replace it with a more realistic thought like, "This might be challenging, but I've been able to handle everything that's come my way, and I'm sure I'll be able to handle this too." Nova proves to herself that she can indeed handle the worst-case scenario when she is eaten by a great white shark. If that's not a worst-case scenario, I don't know what is. She is able to handle even this catastrophic situation because Nova has built strong relationships with people in her life, namely Finn, who cares about her so much that he jumps into the shark's mouth himself, wielding a chainsaw that he uses to free Nova. Finn was not about to abandon Nova, no matter how bad things got. With his chainsaw, he cuts himself and Nova out of the great white shark, proving that together they have the tools to handle just about anything. It's important to also set limits for yourself when you notice you're engaging in catastrophic thinking. When we assign too much emotional relevance to worst-case scenarios and ruminate on them, they can become stronger and more persistent, like that third Sharknado that showed up. It can be helpful to even allot yourself worry time or a worry budget and say, okay, I know I'm having catastrophic thoughts, and that story is coming up again where I'm telling myself I'm doomed, but I know I can handle this, and I'm going to set this down for the moment and go do something else. I'm going to play hopscotch. I'm going to do my nails. I'm going to commune with a demon. Whatever floats your boat. It's important to have boundaries with yourself when it comes to catastrophic thinking, so doing a little bit of cognitive work to challenge them is helpful. With catastrophic thinking, it's important to think about long-term goals instead of the immediate anxiety if catastrophizing is holding you back from participating in your life. Accept that you are having the thought and don't avoid it. Challenge yourself to make an empowered choice by widening your window of tolerance if you notice it has decreased. You simply can't let the fear of tornado sharks run your life. Noticing catastrophic thinking as an externalization of a fear you are having can be a helpful way to work through it. Watching horror movies is much the same and can work as an exercise for navigating catastrophic thinking. The next time you're watching a horror movie, like Sharknado or something even scarier, if you're really getting scared and you start to look over your shoulder or to the sky, here are some questions you might like to consider. What is it like to know that this feels scary but isn't real? What is it like to notice that this feels scary but I'm actually safe? What is it like to notice that this is separate from me? What is it like to notice the taste of this popcorn or the feeling of this cozy blanket while something spooky is happening over there? I really love horror comedies. It's one of my favorite subgenres of horror because it helps us to laugh at the things we are most afraid of. Watching horror movies on the sillier side, like Sharknado, can help with catastrophizing because you can have a laugh and see how silly it all is. Sometimes when we say the thing out loud that seems so scary, we might think it's funny or silly, and it diffuses the tension a little bit. Being able to externalize our fears and experience them in a safe environment that we can control can be an empowering way to navigate catastrophic thinking. I picked 2 tarot cards that I associate with Sharknado, and they are the 9 of Swords and the 5 of Pentacles. I see the person in the 9 of Swords struggling with catastrophizing, and it's tormenting them so much that it's keeping them up at night. I mean, wouldn't it keep you up at night if you thought sharks were going to start falling from the sky? I see the 5 of Pentacles as the worst case scenario that they are imagining, and this is where we get into the very deliberate cognitive work that can be helpful to challenge catastrophic thinking. With this person's negativity bias, they are seeing the worst case scenario for themselves in this card. They are poorly dressed for the elements, sort of like wearing a flimsy bikini during a Sharknado. That thing is not going to stay in place. They are shuttered out from a place of shelter and they feel very alone. Ruminating on this worst case scenario is being reflected in their posture. Shoulders forward, head down, head in their hands. But if we take a closer look at the 5 of Pentacles and accept, yes, I know that I am looking at this through my negativity bias and seeing everything that could go wrong here, but that's just one story and there's something else happening. We can consider the most generous or best case scenario. What could be possible here? What am I capable of? What if I'm one of these people struggling through a Sharknado and I turn to my friend here and we band together? What could we figure out? After we band together, maybe we could look up from our state of despair and realize, hey, there's a place of shelter right here. Surely they will let us in. Something I always like to notice in the 5 of Pentacles is that at the very top of the card, there's a sneaky little 6th pentacle poking through. I think this is another sign from our mind's capacity to consider the best case scenario, even when things feel grim. Because in the tarot, 5 is a card of tension and struggle, and 6 is a very lucky and nourishing number. How can we get that extra pentacle to work in our favor? If we are over here catastrophizing, what might happen to this person after they have considered the most generous or best case scenario? I imagine their posture might change, their head can lift out of their hands, they can relax their shoulders back, and maybe they want to get up and open a window in this dank-ass room. It can take quite a bit of work, but these 2 cards together remind us that things can really change when we consider all that we're capable of, and that if Finn and Nova can survive a Category 5 Sharknado, we can pretty much survive anything too.
an iHeartRadio experience. You and a pal down under in Australia.
At Savannah in the Round Festival.
Experience tropical North Queensland in Cairns and see the Roadhammers.
Dan Davidson and more.
With flights, accommodations, VIP passes.
Plus, Great Barrier Reef and Rainforest Adventure Day Tours.
And $1,000 cash.
Listen to Pure Country on the free iHeartRadio app for at least 10 minutes.
Every day you enter is another chance to win.
You know when you see a scary monster in the corner of your room at night, and you fixate on the shadowy figure, imagining the worst case scenario, like this thing has big sharp teeth and 12 googly eyes and it's wearing Crocs. But if you turn on the light and actually face the monster, you might actually notice that it's just a pile of laundry and you can fold it in the morning. Catastrophic thinking is sort of like this. When you accept and actually think through the worst case scenario, you might find that you actually do have the capacity and resources to handle it. For example, you might think, okay, so it's raining today and bad things always happen to me, so sharks will probably start raining down from the sky and try to eat me and my family. Typical me. Okay, so what then? What happens when sharks start raining down from the sky? Well, you might get to higher ground, or take shelter somewhere that sharks can't access, or get yourself a weapon like a chainsaw, and you can make sure that your family is safe by bringing them with you. What is that like to consider? Sometimes we forget that we can imagine the best case scenario too. With our silly inherent negativity bias, it's easy for us to imagine the worst case scenario. But what's the best thing that could happen? What might that feel like to think about? Maybe we become friends with the sharks. Maybe we stop hunting them and restore peace to the oceans and take care of the earth. Wouldn't that be nice? That, my ghouls, is the story of Sharknado and its portrayal of catastrophic thinking. This franchise has some of the best taglines for its movies, like Sharknado 2, the second one, and Sharknado 3, oh hell no! Bless the people at Sci-Fi. Mental Health is Horrifying is researched, written, and edited by me, Candis Green, registered and spooky psychotherapist, and proudly produced in partnership with iHeartRadio Canada. If you like this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing on your preferred listening platform. It really helps the show to reach all the other spooky ghouls out there, and I will be eternally grateful. And an eternity is a very long time for a vampire, okay? If you are a mental health professional who wants to learn how to ethically incorporate tarot into your clinical work with confidence, join Tarot for Creative Therapists, where you will learn how to support clients with tarot integrated therapy sessions alongside the evidence-based therapeutic modalities you already work with. You can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health is Horrifying, and you can also learn more about me and my services through my website, manymoonstherapy.com. Or you can also howl at the moon and I will hear your call. Bright blessings.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio, hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Everybody